Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It is another vlog while on call, or not vlog, video while on call. I was up a lot last night. We had to take a patient to the operating room, so I am a little tired and I'm gonna try and take a nap, but I really wanna film this video because I've been looking forward to it and brainstorming it for a while. So I wanna do that first. Today's video is going to be how to succeed as a third and fourth year medical student on your clinical rotations. You know, it's always a nerve-wracking time, especially third year when you're starting to go through it. You don't really know what to do. You're trying to A, do well and get good grades and get good comments, and B, figure out what you want to do with your life. And then as a fourth year, you know, a lot of the time if you're doing AIs or stuff, you're trying to get letters of recommendation or see if you want to match somewhere. So it's a very stressful time. And I thought I would offer you some tips on how to succeed. So I have kind of more general recommendations, and then I have more specific recommendations. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please don't forget to subscribe. That would mean so much to me, and let's jump in. So for the more general recommendations, the number one thing that I personally look at and that I know a lot of my co-residents look at is just are you fun to be with? Are you good-natured? Are you fun to be around? Are you willing to help out with kind of whatever we ask of you within reason, obviously, but are you just pretty happy-go-lucky, easygoing, willing to chip in wherever? I personally think that is the most important thing. You know, knowledge can be taught, surgical skills can be taught, things can be studied, but your personality and what type of person you are and how you handle stress and how you work as a team, that is the most important thing. So that's the number one thing I look at. And I just think generally as a third and fourth year student, your goal should be to bring the vibe up, always be happy, always have a smile on your face. That's what I really focused on when I was a third and fourth year. And it went over pretty well. So that's the number one kind of general piece of advice. In terms of being asked to do random stuff, you know, third and fourth years often get asked to do not the greatest things, keep an eye out for the case and let the resident know when we're rolling back, or just other stuff that you may think, oh, this is dumb, this is not important, but it is so important. I cannot reiterate to you how important it is, because as someone who's holding the consult pager while operating, I need every second of the day I can get. So in the 20 minutes between cases, will run and see consults, change Foleys, do this, do that. And I rely on my third year to tell me or my fourth year to tell me when we're rolling back in the OR so I can run down and help prep. Because I will tell you, you know, for people who, I've had students who aren't as good about doing that, and the attending ends up setting up on their own, prepping the patient on their own, and it just looks so bad. So you may think, oh, this is a dumb job, but we rely on you so heavily for that. And it actually is so helpful, and we really, really do appreciate it. The next piece of general advice is to read the room. Don't ask questions at inopportune times. Say it is a stressful part of a case, or, you know, we're doing something really involved and we're really focused. Don't be asking these random questions at that time, or just chatting, or, you know, be able to read the room. We obviously want everyone to be in a good mood, and to be happy and chatting, and we want you to ask questions when you have questions. But I have had it where students will just ask questions for the sake of asking questions, for the sake of seeming interested. And you can tell that they're kind of doing that. And then you're trying to focus on doing your case. You know, the attending and I are talking and we're trying to figure out what to do. And the students just asking questions, and it's just not ideal. So just focus on that, read the room. You know, we want all your questions answered and we want you to learn, but we also need to do our jobs as effectively as possible. Next is show up on time. I know your hours seem so long, and I know that it can be really, really exhausting, but showing up on time is just such a little thing that you can do that really shows that you're on top of things. And it really makes a difference, so we don't have to wait on students to go round or stuff like that. And while we might not notice, if you do it every day, we'll notice when you don't do it. So that's what the important thing is. Next is to have your presentations well organized. there is a set organization of how you should do your presentations. Everyone learns it in med school. I did SOAP, like subjective, objective, assessment, and plan. And then you do like your, vitals, physical exam, labs. Like there's an order for everything. And just be sure you stick to that order. It's such a small thing, and you can prepare your presentation beforehand, see the patient, just write out like the little details. Again, like people notice that. My chief always notices that and always comments on that. And it's always very impressive when a third or fourth year on their first day of the rotation has their presentation down pat. It is very impressive, and you can tell the difference. So just focus on that little detail. I think that it can really like make you shine. Last general thing is to read up on patients beforehand, whether this be your patient for the day if you're on internal medicine or these other specialties, but even more so on surgery. Read up on your cases. You don't have to know every single detail of how to do a case because we don't expect that, but knowing kind of the general anatomy and then the history of your patient. So like a lot of times they'll ask like, oh, has this patient had any previous abdominal surgeries? And as a med student, if you know the answer to that, that's really impressive. Or what other medical problems does this patient have? Has this patient ever had kidney stones before? Or is this their first stone? Just knowing that as a medical student is very, very impressive. So I always really recommend doing that. And then in terms of anatomy, that's like basically the only thing you'll get tested on by attendings, at least in surgery in the OR, is anatomy. Some attendings will go deeper into things as your level increases, but like as a third and fourth year, mainly it's anatomy. It's like, what's this? Name this. So knowing that is always good and a great way to get bonus points. All right, so that was kind of the general pieces of advice. Now I'm going to move on to kind of more nitpicky specifics that I particularly like people to do, and that I think a lot of junior residents at least who are very busy would find very helpful. First thing is to help us prepare the list in the morning. Usually this is the job of the intern or the junior resident. I always am rushing to do it. I'm always like scrambling to do everything. So it's so helpful if you just print the list in the morning for me. Like that is so helpful. It saves me a lot of time. And then also like one step above is, at least for surgery, one thing that we care about is intake and output. So how much fluid have they had in? We'll care less about that. How much fluid have they put out? We care about that. So either looking in the chart and making sure that that's updated, or taking it a step further, and if it's not updated, calling the nurses to get the accurate output of drains, of urine, of NG tube, of whatever. So helpful, let me tell you. And it also looks good for the whole team. So that's just something small that like makes a huge difference in the morning. Next is holding the pager. Like I said, I mean, this will vary on program, right? And specialty, but for surgical specialties, a lot of the time it's so helpful to give, especially when you're operating, the intern or the med student, either the 3 or the 4, the pager to hold while you're in the operating room. And, you don't have to know everything about every patient. You just have to be able to triage. So that means look at the pager, know how to call back numbers, and call back the pages, know when something's urgent, know when something's not urgent, and take copious notes. So like, we had this third year on urology who was just a superstar, like an actual superstar. He held my pager every single day in the operating room, took amazing consults, got all the information, got what order they needed to be seen, what was important, the pertinent information. He knew what questions to ask the team, like, is his Foley draining? Is he uncomfortable? Is this stone infected? He knew kind of the basics and what to ask to figure out whether or not something was an emergency. He took notes on every single consult, and then he had like a paper for me so I could look at their MRN, their last name, kind of chief complaint, or if it was like a call from PACU, like what they wanted or if they wanted a specific order. So that saves me time calling back those consults. I can just quickly put in orders or go see consults. And then obviously, you're a third year. We don't expect you to know everything. So there's certain things that you'll miss, but just having the basics is so helpful. And me not having to call back 20 pages at the end of a long case makes my life way less stressful. So that is, in my opinion, like the number one thing I appreciate in a medical student. I cannot tell you how helpful it is. Another kind of nitpicky thing, again, this is like all kind of surgical related because that is what I know and that's where I have med students, but is when we're in the OR, like helping to position the patient. You know, urology, we put a lot of patients in lithotomy. So helping, you know, knowing to put the brackets on, knowing to put the yellow fins or the whatever the leg things are on, and then helping to position the patient, helping to move them down, like knowing what to hand me to prep, helping to take the foot of the bed off is all so helpful, and it makes things move more quickly. And then, like, you know, in terms of other surgical cases, if I'm shaving the patient, knowing to get the tape to get the extra hair, just kind of noticing like what the residents are doing and picking out little things that you can do that aren't intrusive that can be really helpful. Those are kind of the two biggest things in positioning in the OR or stuff to do in the OR is like positioning and helping to like prep the patient and get them shaved and everything. You just almost always need another set of hands. The attending's not there for that part. It's hard for a resident to do on their own. The nurses are, you know, setting up the room, getting everything checked in. So just having that extra set of hands is really, really helpful. And I guess this goes back to a general piece of advice, and I already said it, but just noticing like the little things that you can do to be helpful. It's very team specific, but if there's something that one person does every day that you think you can do, just be like, hey, I'm happy to do this. And they'll most likely be like, thank you. So yeah, I hope this video was helpful. If you are a doctor, resident, anything, and you notice if you have any additional advice for med students on things that you would find helpful, please leave it down below. I think everyone would appreciate that. I can certainly make a part 2 of this if people are interested and I think of other stuff. So yeah. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye.